Yo, welcome to my channel, Ward Draws a Lot. Obviously I'm Ward, or I wouldn't have named it Ward Draws a Lot. Today I will be doing prompt number 2 of the 500 drawing prompt series OC edition. The OC edition is something I kind of made up to make it more interesting for myself. The OC edition is something I kind of just made up for the drawing prompt series to make it more interesting for myself because I like making characters. So this is where I take any of the prompts that the book gives me and then somehow transfer it onto an OC. So the prompt for this video is going to be, sadly, zombies. And I hate zombies. I hate everything zombie. I hate zombie games, I hate zombie movies, I just never found an interest in them, but I told myself I gotta work through this, even if I don't like the prompt. And I struggled a lot with this. I sat down for like an hour, just trying to figure out how am I going to implement a zombie onto a character when I dislike them so much. So I sat down and I was like, okay, let's think of skin color, let's think of hair color, we'll try and put something together. I then decided to do a little, like, thumbnail size, saying do I want to do a portrait or do I want to do the whole body character, and I was just kind of like back and forth. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then, like, in the middle of drawing, you know how sometimes you have those thoughts that pop up out of nowhere, and it was a thought of my brother and I. We was having a conversation the other day about how if we had money, we wouldn't know how to act. And so my version of not knowing how to act is getting a pair of grills. So I was like, man, what if I put a pair of grills on the zombie and then boom, a brain blast happened from there. And I was like, yo, let's give him a gold chain too. Why not? So then I was like, let's make him into like the zombie rapper kind of thing. And that's kind of foreign to me because I don't really expand very far with like what kind of character. This is gonna be hard to explain. I kind of don't usually give my characters character, if that makes any sense. I kind of just draw the character. Instead, I don't really sit there and be like, they have a backstory or whatever. I just draw them unless I really want to turn them into my own original character and they have a reason to exist in my head. But this time, I did do that, and it was kind of fun, because I made up a little story when I was making him, so he's kind of got a reason as to why he's a zombie slash rapper thing, you know. And I'll tell you my little story when we get to like the coloring part, but right now I just want to talk about a little bit of the process. So as always, I sketch out my idea. Well, I only recently started doing that, honestly, just because of the whole YouTube thing. I sketched out the idea of like what I want the character to be doing, looking like. I kind of thought him pulling the chain with his thumb away from his body was a cool idea, and he was like kind of looking at you all almost like smugly, and I thought that was like a nice added touch to his whole rapper persona. So after I was done with the little sketch and how I wanted the positioning of the body to be and everything, I moved on to the cardstock paper so I could sketch it out and then color it. And as always, I use like a pinkish color to sketch onto the paper, so when I'm done with it, even after lining, if there's any of it underneath, it'll come up nicely under the marker ink. When I was drawing this pose on the cardstock paper, I didn't have much trouble actually this time, but I did have issues with the hand that was pulling the chain, because it was some kind of perspective going on, and the hand would look closer towards the paper. I was just wondering how I was going to be able to do that. So I ended up having to look up a reference, which for some reason, there's no reference of people pulling a chain from their neck with a thumb around. I don't know, I thought it was like a normal thing people did. Apparently not. Or it was normal at one point, and just nobody does it anymore. I don't know. I thought that would just add into his character. It would make it a little cornier. I kind of wanted it a little corny, I'm not gonna lie. So, back to the hand. Originally, I had it kind of closed, so when it was pulling forward, it was just kind of give that perspective of being close up, but I didn't like it, so I ended up erasing that actually, and then doing it kind of like an open palm thing, but it just kind of goes out of the paper, which is how it was going to be regardless. It was going to have to be on the edge of the paper because of the way I drew the perspective. For his face, I made sure that he was smiling, so you guys could see the grills when I go in and color them and everything. I also gave him his necklace, and I gave a little stud. I tried to give as much jewelry as possible to make him look like, you know, he don't know how to act, and then he got money, and that he knows what he's doing but he really doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I'm talking about? So as I kept that in mind, I made sure to give him kind of like a fresh look, or like something that you could tell that he's definitely younger. He's not anywhere in his 20s. I'm gonna give him like in his late teens at most. Back to the drawing process, because I always sidetrack. It's so easy for me to sidetrack. After I finished the sketch, I went over it with my kneader, like I always do, and then afterwards I went in with my liner. This time I used a 0.5 liner instead of a 0.3 liner, because the drawing was so much bigger on the page. I wanted the liner to stand out a little bit more. As I was lining, I was thinking, like, which line style should I do, and like I had like a huge process in my head of what to do, and I was like, man, just line it, who cares. The one thing I did make sure to do was I definitely colored the pupils black, and I wanted his one eyebrow to be black as well. And I feel like, you know how like you see especially a lot of new age rappers or like SoundCloud rappers, and they always have some kind of thing to define them. Sometimes it's like a tattoo on the face or like neck or like a certain style. His will be his black eyebrow, and the fact that he's a zombie, of course. But like that was what he was known for before he died, was like, hey, I have the black eyebrow, he's the one with the one dyed side, whatever. And like everybody defined him by that, and like that was his market, his staple. And then all his fans followed and dyed like one black eyebrows too, and like you know, I thought that was like funny. So for his chain there's a Z there, and like in my head, I know this sounds so dumb, I feel like I've never made a character before like this, so that's why I'm laughing so much. The Z standed for his rapper name beforehand, which was Zyman. So the fact that he turned into his zombie as well kind of like fit together with the Z, so he didn't have to buy a new chain afterwards, so he's just Zombie Zyman now. So we're coloring the skin now. In my head I had an existential crisis about how I'm gonna color the skin, because I always just color normal skin tones from like very light to very dark, and I was like, do I use purple, do I use green? I had no idea. And in my head I'm like, okay, let's think scientifically about this, and I'm like, shut up, you don't need to think that far. And then like my brain, of course, like the little STEM section, because like the entire brain is art, and then that little part is like, hey, science. It was like, obviously, because there's no oxygen going through the body, slash the oxygen would be going through the blood, making the skin pink, etc. He couldn't have a warm skin tone, so I was like, why not just make it purple? And I was like, alright, fine, shut up STEM side, we'll just do that. And that's what I ended up going with. I made sure to give him bags under his eyes, because the iron deposits in his blood would be very low, again because he's dead. There's like no oxygen going through his body, and like henceforth you would have a pool of very dark bags under your eyes. Even if you're a human, by the way, eat your greens, because otherwise you're gonna have dark circles under your eyes. Little advice, you don't have to take it. So when I was coloring, I started off with the lightest skin tone, like I always do. In this case it's a purple skin tone, so is it really a skin tone? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to put down the lightest purple, then we're going to build up with darker purple. So I started with like a BV, which is blue violet, and I started with, I think, BV 000, then went up to 00, and then like I keep building up color until I'm happy with the enough shading that was going on. And of course I did it in sections. Like I didn't color all parts of the skin the lightest purple, then I went to the next section and colored that part with the darkest purple. I don't like doing that, because the ink will dry by the time you get to the next section. So I worked with the head first, then like the top part of the neck, then the bottom part, then the hand, just to make sure that every part would be blended nicely if needed to be, or like at least looks layered enough. So for the scars on his face, I just sat down and thought about it right now. I don't know if I should have colored them like a pinkish red color, because would your skin necessarily still give off a flesh color if you are undead? I don't know, especially because, oh man, yeah, I don't know now. Anyway, it's too late now, I already colored it. So I went in and I did it with like a red slash pink, and I built it up a little bit, and I used the same colors for the tongue and the mouth, and then I also kind of took those colors and used them for the eye color as well, and I used other colors that I was going to use in the piece with the eye color to give it a little bit more color cohesiveness, so it looks like there aren't too many colors in the piece, along with the fact that I thought the effect would look really cool, almost like it looks like a messed up zombie eye, kind of, you get me? So I had to try and keep that theme intact when I was coloring him the whole time. Probably my favorite thing to color in the whole piece was all the gold bits. I just really like coloring gold in general. I don't know what it is. It's shiny. In my head I think it looks cool too. And I did a kind of green gold this time to give it that like dirty gold effect. If that makes any sense. In my head it made sense because it's like he's undead and maybe he was buried with his chains, and then when he came back to life he put them back on, and it was probably like, I don't know, he had to get through the dirt and stuff to come back up. You know, it's all stuff in my head. So I want to talk about how he died. So in my head, what happened was he was going to go to like a super huge concert, right? And then on the way there he suffered a stroke. And I know that sounds extremely anticlimactic, but it just happens sometimes. I think he just folded under the stress. He had like a lot of fans to live up to, and then boom, it just happened to him. And everybody was super upset by that. Of course, all his fans, families, friends. He was buried, and then a year later, some of his fans who never got over his death went to his grave and decided to play with like black magic, and then end up resurrecting him, and then he came back to life. But it was in exchange for the fact that he's just undead, and people don't want to see an undead rapper on stage. Some of his fans were still loyal enough, and they were like, okay, I don't care what he looks like, I'll stay by his side and like listen to his music. Some people were like, this is an ungodly / horrible thing in front of us and we don't want to see it anymore. Why was it resurrected? So you have like a huge divergence within the fan group and everything, and I think that kind of makes him want to work hard to become a big rapper all over again. And yeah, that's my story for him. So I wish him good luck with that. I don't know how it's gonna go on in his world. Hopefully things go a little bit better and that his fans accept him again. If not, sorry bro, you're undead anyway. Nothing's gonna kill you now. So a quick little thing on the drawing, I put like little shinies with a Posca pen to make it look like the gold is like really sparkly and everything. Then after I was happy with everything and I went in and gave him a little bit more under his bags, I signed it, and overall I had a lot of fun with this. I was actually surprised that something involving zombies was fun. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I love you. Remember that.